Alright, everybody, so Derek Scholar here. Alright, so today we're going to talk about different tarot styles and readings, right? Everyone has a favorite spread. Everyone loves certain ways to read. Sorry, I stepped away for a second. I wanted to grab a book that I can't find. Really? I have too many books. Alright. Found it. Found one of them. Alright. So, if you haven't tried this book out yet, it's very interesting. It talks about kind of how layouts work, the different variations to them, and what each card should resemble within that layout, right? But here's the thing you got to keep in mind when you're doing this, is every layout is duplicatable, okay? So you have a stress card layout, and you have the other big dream layout. How do you know that the big dream is different than the stress card when you're doing a tarot reading? Okay. Think about that for a second. And how do you know the variation 1 and variation 2, which one are you using in the spread? And variation 1, 2, 3, or versus 3, 2, 1. Why does the position of the card within the coordinated area affect the tarot reading? Alright, and this ain't from the book, this is from my experience and my view of how I do tarot readings. The spread affects the spread is affected by the intention of the caster, the card thrower. You, if you're doing a tarot reading. Me, if I'm doing the tarot reading. I set the intention of the cards before I lay them down. And that's how it works between each one of these. How do I find versus the next step, or prioritizing? You know, I use the traditional Celtic spread a lot because I'm familiar with it. I know intuitively what each position means to me and how I intend to read it. And that's why you practice as a tarot reader. And that's why sometimes the readings aren't as accurate, because you might try a new spread. You've seen recently, I did a 3-card spread video for my Tarot Tuesdays interpretations that I'm starting to keep track of. If I'm not used to the 3-card spread, I may get some false positives or false negatives. And I'm not really too used to the 3-card spread. I use it less than the Celtic spread. And most of these in here I have never used. So if I were to go and try to use the spread, it would be harder for me to properly divine a interpretation. And that's kind of why people practice. That's why you should have friends that you can work on. That's why you should have people that you can be transparent with. Be like, hey, I'm going to try this new thing. Let's experiment. And you get used to your subconscious knowing how each card should be. Because if it's not right in your subconscious or intuitive nature, then it doesn't matter, because it's not an accurate reading. Because you may be thinking that instead of what you see as number 1, you may be thinking what you see as number 5, because, you know, that's the center of the matter and your perception's the center of the universe, right? Metaphorically speaking. So what you need to do is kind of find the intuitive nature to this, because there's no one way to read. the correct way to read a tarot reading is one that is accurate to how you interpret it. And that comes with practice. I've been wrong a lot with tarot readings because I try to innovate and think through different ways to find a system that works better. And what it comes down to is the best way is to find one that works for your intuition and through practice. So let's go through a couple ideas for some spreads and how I look at them. All right, so there's two ways I do the Celtic spread. There's the one where I put a foundation card down, and this is going to differ for you and your beliefs and other people's, and there's probably professional tarot readers out there that are just blowing their head out right now and being like, no! But this is sometimes how I do it, depending on how I intuitively feel. So I'll lay a foundation card down as the primary symbolism of the whole reading, and I will not look at that card 99% of the time. This is a burner card. This is the card that exists as is. It's the connection to from the microsome to the macrosome. And then I'll lay over the first card on the Celtic spread, and this is the client of mine, or the person initiating the question. So if it's me, it would be me. If it's the person across from me, or you, or someone else, this is the representation of the specific exact moment that this thing was conceived and casted right in front of us. That is what that represents. Because as we move through the reading and we explain this to an individual, their perception and moment and reality changes. So this whole dynamic thing may play out different than the foundation of what this was based on. So this is the person right then and there. All right, so moving forward here, after that, I would pick up another card and I'd flip it up top. And to me, intuitively, how I've done this in the past, this is kind of the pure ambition of the querent. The person who is asking the question, overarching everything, what is the nature of what's going on with their mindset or their attitude towards the question. There's another one over here that helps refine this, but this is the overarching in my mind how that works. The history of the question and the mentality around the question is back here. And this bridges into this, where this is in the heavens, the ether. This doesn't bridge to this. This is the overarching. This will bridge to the current and the obstacles of the scenario, right? Because we're forming a bridge. This is the things that they are currently facing, the problems they're currently involved with, or challenges that they perceive, or that they are actively involved in, not unforeseen. This is stuff they should know about. And then the future of the question based on the situations at the time it was worded. Because analysis of this will change the future. The butterfly effect, or anything like that, where if you know, it's the concept of when you're going to die, you won't die that time. Because you'll make life choices that would have been different, that would have affected that. Now, I'm not predicting death or anything. You can't do that with tarot, just because for that specific reason is it's a dynamic variable that your cognitive perception of changes the outcome of it. So this is just a foundation template. If nothing else changed and you never came to me today, kind of how this would play out. So this would be the next step. This would be what's going to happen from this current scenario. And then I'd bring this down to the underlying problems, the underlying currents, the underlying emotions, the thoughts, the the things that you're not really perceiving of things that collectively are working with you or against you. And then this is your outside influences. Some people. This is not classic Celtic, by the way, because this would mean something different. But this is kind of like your outside influence, people working with you, against you, around you, the society in general, the surrounding your question. It plays into your underlying, right? So if you were kind of thinking of this as a path, you have your past to present with obstacles, your overarching idea of how life should be and the question and why it is the way it is and your thoughts and opinions and beliefs, and then the underlying argument connecting the sphere around it, right? The unknown sphere. And then this ties in to this pathway that's going to be forming here. And it ties into what is affecting this person from an outside of their sphere of influence. And how is this person reacting to it? Like, are they hurting or helping it based on their own internal actions because of this? And in what ways can they improve, or areas that they can work on with that? And then how is this person planning on, or what is the ultimate hope really? Because you can tell me that my ultimate hope is to get back with this person, but really, deep down, you don't want to get back with this person. You like the idea of the person, right? So this is what is the ultimate hopes or admiration or fears involving the situation, right? So we have the people tying in your sphere of influence that you don't see of the outside influence, and that's building up to how you actually perceive and work with the energies and the what you're doing with the situation, what you're doing with the area, and how that actually manifests into your hopes and fears involving the situation. Ultimately, all these will add up to what the outcome is based on the question. So we take the sphere of influence and we take the parameters seen and unseen, ultimately to have a goal into the future of where you want to be, right? So that's kind of how I play that along and build a case scenario for a person based off of the Celtic spread. Now, if we actually look and we find the Celtic spread in here, you're going to see that the way I do it is way off. Maybe not way off, but it's going to be different than the traditional Celtic spread. Let's find it here. It should be towards the front because so 135. Okay, so the Celtic spread. All right, see, no one mentions the foundation card, right? No one ever mentions the foundation card, and people think I'm crazy sometimes when I do that, but it's there. So 1 is the starting point, 2 is the crossroads, and this is the order you're supposed to throw the cards down. I don't do it that way, and I'll explain why here in a second, but just keep in mind this is the order that they're supposed to be down. So the crossroad are opposing or complementary. 3, the chances, accumulation, and conscious side. Okay, so maybe that kind of ties in. The root basis. Okay, so maybe that's tying into what I do. The past and the future, all right? Okay. See, 7's inner strength and inner attitude. But me, for 7, this is like the outside influences, things that are tying your sphere of influence up. And then, you know, your hopes and fears, I have these 2 swept around in my own personal thing. And then this is supposed to be outside influence, but this is kind of your outside influence, or this down here is. And then your outcome, goal, or task, right? So how the outcome's going to defeat. So you can see where mine's been manipulated different, okay? And the idea is to have something that vibes with you so you can understand how those tasks work. And it's all about practice and memorizing the positions. Cool. So, Esoteric Scholar, what do you do when somebody requests a 1 card for $5 or a 2 card for 10 or a 3 card for 20 or whatever the sell of the week is? I don't do those. I might start doing those because it seems to be the trend, and I need some more practice with doing 1 cards, because here's how I would do a 1 card if somebody came up to me. I'd be like, Ace of Cups. Yep. So you're lacking a little bit of the foundation in the situation. You're a little bit emotional, or you lack emotion. And in the next phase of the moon, you're going to do XYZ or something, because I'm spot checking those things. And then I'm going to be like, but I need to refine something, so let's get a clarifying card. Okay. You were overabundant for a while there with a lot of things, and now you're becoming more reserved and more recluse because you feel overwhelmed. And so that's what's going to happen to me, right? That's how that's going to pan out. So the 1 card interpretations, 2 card interpretations are always going to turn into more card interpretations, because I always have clarifying cards, because the cards are going to tell you the base, and then you can clarify how much you want. So if this one doesn't clarify enough for this, I'll be like, tell me more, and then it will tell me more, and then it will tell me more. And I've had times where I've had this much left in the deck before, because I've been trying to drill down more information to get accuracy for the client. And it's worked. It's worked extremely well. So that's how that process works with the interpretation of the spreads, and how each spread can be used differently depending on your intuitive nature to the deck and to the cards. So building bonding with the spread and the deck will be another video. But I hope you enjoyed this.